Hello, everybody. This is Thomas Van Kampen once again. When I left off, I was drawing the shell over the blue samurai guy, over all of the frames and in-betweens and stuff like that. And I've jumped ahead a little bit once again. Now, he has everything drawn over him, and I'm going to be doing the same thing to the red samurai guy now. So yeah, that's pretty well it. This isn't how they're going to look in the final thing, by the way. This is just how they look for the time being. I'm gonna be putting in some like draping clothing, some long hair and stuff like that later down the road. And I'll probably change the coloring of the lines too, because as I said a couple of episodes ago, I want to stray away from black lines, and because my background doesn't have any black lines in it, I think the black lines of these guys would be way too distracting. So I'll probably change their palette a little bit in the future. But for now, I'm just drawing their builds over top, and yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So for this episode, I wanted to talk particularly about my favorite childhood animated TV shows. And there's a bigger reason for that, but I'll get to that when I get to that. The first one that comes to mind for me is Teen Titans. Not Teen Titans Go, not that crap. The original Teen Titans by Cartoon Network. It was such a clever and funny show. And oddly enough, it was better for me as an adult than it was for me as a kid. Because as a kid, I just saw it as like cool superhero show. I thought it was corny at times as a kid, just because it did borrow a lot of aspects from anime, which I wasn't very used to at the time. I always thought those integrations were kind of jarring as a kid, but as an adult who's actually watched a bit of anime and understands the culture a bit more, I actually appreciate it way more because of that. Not only that, but it never struck me as a kid how many adult themes it tackles. My favorite episode is probably the one where Beast Boy becomes like that giant beast that everybody thinks he hurt Raven, but it turns out like that was Adonis the whole time, and he becomes like super worried and stuff like that, and wonders like, how am I going to be able to control this? I have this beast inside of me. And Raven's like, good, had it not been for that beast, I would not be alive right now, blah blah blah. That's a really good episode. There's a ton of good episodes in there, honestly. Like I could just talk about that show this whole time, but I want to move on to something greater further down the road. As a kid, my favorite character was Beast Boy, but now I think it's Starfire, because I did not realize how friggin' funny she was in that show, man. Like, her dialogue is hilarious. She's easily the funniest character in the whole show. So yeah, she's my favorite now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Another show I really liked, I kind of hopped on the bandwagon really late, to be honest with you, but another show I really like is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I didn't watch it when it was first on, and the reason for that was I couldn't keep up with the continuation and stuff like that. I couldn't watch the episodes in order, so half the time I didn't really understand what was going on, just because, things like school and homework intervened all the time, so I couldn't just put it on whenever I wanted. Not only that, but I was a super impatient kid. I wanted action like immediately, and I didn't tolerate lack thereof for any reason, because I didn't learn to appreciate character development. But there's a bigger reason why I wanted to bring Avatar up. Before I go into this, let me say I don't have any problem with shipping. It's a fictional world. You have whatever fantasy you want. Fine, whatever. But the Sutara, which is Katara and Zuko, for those of you who don't know, that shipping always bothered me for one big reason. It's not the shipping itself. Like I said, people can have their fantasies, whatever. But what bothers me is that the people who ship that, they always argue that it was originally written to be like that in canon, and that Aang and Katara wasn't meant to ever happen. It just kind of happened on coincidence, which I would like to argue sometimes change happens for the better. Just because something was originally meant to go into another direction doesn't mean that it should have. Um, I personally think Katara and Aang are a much stronger couple, and there's a big reason for that. I'm not going to claim that I know how love works because, that's a pretty broad subject and everybody experiences it differently. But I at least know what makes love interesting from a storytelling perspective, and that is a relationship should showcase two individuals becoming stronger and more and reaching their potential because of each other. And that's exactly what Katara and Aang do. Katara helps groom Aang into the avatar he was always meant to become. And I don't think it was just coincidence that after Aang froze himself for 100 years out of cowardice, Katara was coincidentally the first person he ran into. I think that was a little bit of fate, if you ask me, but whatever. Yeah, so Katara helps groom Aang into the Avatar, helps him become the man he needs to become. And meanwhile, Aang provides Katara with a life she never would have gotten had they never met. Had Aang and Katara never met, Katara would have lived a very mundane life in the South Pole that's kind of beneath her. And she would have never showcased her full potential as a talented waterbender. She would have only been a subpar waterbender trapped in the North Pole had it not been for Aang. And they always challenge each other to do better. The difference between that and Katara and Zuko is that they don't give each other what they need, they give each other what they want. And that is a huge difference. Zuko, the most Zuko ever offered Katara was avenging her mother's death against her mother's killer. That's the most he ever offered her, and that was more just to make amends than anything else to earn her trust. Aang thought she was above vengeance and wanted her to forgive and to be above such vengeful emotions and stuff like that. And she inevitably ended up proving herself to be just that. But that's not what Zuko was providing her for, and that's not what Zuko was setting her up for. Zuko promised to give her what she wanted and didn't ask her to strive to be better. Meanwhile, Katara once offered to use her magical water to heal Zuko's character-defining eye wound, which would have been a backdoor solution to his problems, and had that happened, he probably would have become a good guy or whatever without ever actually gaining the courage to fess up to his father. So yeah, and going along on that tangent, I said before that relationships should be about two people helping each other become better. But that's not what Katara and Zuko do for each other. They go through their own growth pains independent of each other. Zuko goes through all sorts of his dilemmas and stuff like that on his own, with the most help he ever gets from his uncle, and Katara wasn't the least bit involved in that. She was too busy, once again, grooming Aang into the avatar he needed to become. So, yeah, and the most help Zuko ever got was from his uncle. So, yeah, to me, that's what makes them have a stronger relationship overall. And, you can have any fantasy you want, like I was saying from the beginning, but you have to understand when something is better for a reason, and sometimes changes happen for the better. And you can't hold that against the quality of the show overall. And I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty for a little bit. I'm going to address a theory that I have for why people like that pairing so much. The real reason why. I think it's psychologically satisfying to see the two prettiest people in the show come together. You know, any girl who identifies with Katara has a crush on Zuko, and any guy who identifies with Zuko has a crush on Katara. And I think because of that fantasy where they immerse themselves in different roles in the story, and that's how they would want it to go in their personal fantasy, they apply that to the actual show itself. In spite of everything I just listed off as to why Aang and Katara are better. Um, and like, I really do think it's a whole crush thing where the people who identify with Katara, they just really like Zuko, like they have a crush on him, and I don't think they even liked him that much until he got that mop top, because to this day I have not seen any fan art within that theming that had him with his ponytail. Anyway, I'm running low on time. Thank you guys for joining me once again. Thanks for enduring my rants over something pointless. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.